Welcome to the SpartanMag.com feedcast from Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk. Konyndyk Stadium, Iowa City. Michigan State played well, lost 26-16. You guys all saw the game. We've covered a lot of Michigan State losses over the years and a lot of heartbreaking losses. This one's different because, for me anyway, is I just feel bad for the players. You know, they've had all kinds of bad crap go against them in September, no fault of their own. They're trying to find their way. They're out here on playing against a physical Iowa team. It wasn't Iowa's A game. Michigan State controlled a lot of the game, controlled the line of scrimmage for a lot of it, and then a couple plays and it gets away from them and they have to deal with the defeat now for a bye week. And we know a lot of losses are coming because that schedule is going to get tough later on. And, you know, with a few minutes to go in this game, it looked like Michigan State was in position to win. You win this game, you're 3-2. You have a good chance to get to 6-6 or 7-5, despite all the challenges and everything that's going on. And it gets away. It's a dejected locker room. As young student athletes, I feel bad for them. They played hard. They deserved a better outcome, but Iowa deserved to win also. They made the plays. Really an interesting game to observe here today, Paul.
I don't know if Iowa deserved to win. I don't think they did. I think Michigan State deserved to win this, but they didn't make enough plays that you need to make. They didn't, you know, like I think of like Ade Willie getting picked on a little bit. It's not a big deal because Michigan State ends up rebounding from it, but it puts you in bad field position, and then and then you're kind of backed up. And Michigan State didn't get the plays they needed to. A couple bad decisions. I thought that one of the worst decisions that was made was the 4th and 1. Where Michigan State was in control of field position. Harlan Burnett opted to go for it on 4th and 1. Michigan State didn't get that. Now they only gave up 3 points, but at that point they're leading by 6 points. They gave up 3 points, and then you get a really shanked punt that sets up the game-tying field goal. And then after that, you guys saw what happened. Well, we can explain a little bit more about what happened, why that thing got loose. Having 2 gunners on one side of the field, it's a directional punt, and the punter didn't hit it the right direction. It's very similar to when Michigan State came back and had that win against Nebraska a few years ago when Jaden Reed had that punt return in 2021, I think it was, right? So directional punt didn't go in the right direction, and that's the way it sounded to me. I mean, the way Harlan Barnett was describing it. Well, that's the only reason why you would have 2 gunners on the same side of the field. And the other thing with that is that it's not just the punter's fault. It's a directional punt, but you're also putting it in the closer to the end zone with multiple, in fact, back-to-back, false start penalties, and that doesn't help either. Yeah, and the irony there is Eckley had done such a great job, had a 67-yarder roll inside the 3-yard line in the first quarter and a 70-yarder that did the same thing. Right. This is a game of field position and punting, like I said in the pre-snap read, and I was saying to you, and you were getting sick of hearing me saying it in the press box, I kept saying, punting is not a bad thing, punting's not a bad thing. The quarterback sneak on 4th and 1, punting's not a bad thing, right, because Iowa's offense is so challenged to do anything. Give the ball back to them, see what they can do. But then you shank one for 15 yards short field and they score, and then you mess up a directional punt. The reason I paused to say it was all on Eckley is because Harlan Barnett painted the picture, but then he didn't finish the statement and say whose fault it was. But it's obviously, to finish the statement, Eckley didn't get a directional punt on that. And he had such a good game, and those 2 punts got cost him 10 points. Rewatching one of those, I thought one of the snaps was really high, so I wonder if that messed up his footwork. So it's an operational thing. It's not just him. Yeah. But the other thing, he's having a pretty good season. Go ahead. The crowd smelled blood too. With those false start penalties. Iowa believed. They did and they didn't. You know what I'm saying? True. Like, you say they didn't. They're booing that they're going for a field goal to tie it. They're booing because he's punting on a couple occasions, and then they believed once Michigan State kind of made some mistakes and let Iowa back into it. Listen, we've seen a lot of Michigan State-Iowa games over the years where Michigan State felt like they were in control, and then until they weren't. And this is one of those games where it felt like even though Michigan State was up 3, it felt like they were in control. They're dominating on defense, and then they weren't. And then the punt. It's one of the reasons why you've got to be. You're not going to get a lot of chances to score touchdowns against these guys, but you can't throw away chances to score touchdowns. And I think on both of Michigan State's interceptions, they're moving the ball pretty well. And they did some things Noah Kim tried to do some things that he didn't have to. I thought the second one maybe is a play call deal. I don't know.
Second one, you started the wide side of the field there against Iowa. I mean, Michigan State was trying to keep they were trying to manage their passing game and keep it as simple as possible because Iowa specializes in turning you over. I mentioned this in the pre-snap read that Penn State last week threw the ball like 37 times and completed 25. and not one of them was for more than 16 yards. They kept it short, kept it short, kept it short. And Michigan State was keeping it short. Malik Carr in the first half, and like Barnett said, he was going to be a big part of our game plan. He ended up, getting injured and was in street clothes at the second half. Barnett indicated that he'll be back soon, probably after the bye week and so forth. But Michigan State, in my opinion, had the right game plan. We mapped it out in the pre-snap read, talked about it all week. Ball control passing, don't turn it over. Ball control passing, don't turn it over. Stop the run, punt. And that's what they were doing, and that script was working, except for those interceptions and a couple of bad punts. Fumble.
And then the Trey Mosley fumble late after he caught that. That was it was a brutal hit. It was,
That's Iowa,
it is. And Michigan State had a lot of hard hits today too. I mean, this is a really hard-hitting football game, the likes of which we haven't seen Michigan State play this physical in a while, and I thought Michigan State did a whole bunch of good things in this game. Run defense was phenomenal, based on what we've seen in the last few years. I mean, it actually looked like a Michigan State team stopping the run against a team that wanted to run the football. And so Michigan State's had decent run defense this year. Don't get me wrong, but this is one of those deals where they shut the door. It wasn't like the other team was averaging 3.5 or 4 something. And, like a bad running team getting 120. This is a team that wanted to run the football, and Michigan State did a good job on it. I think personnel losses hurt. I think they catch up with you when you have injuries. And Michigan State's lost a lot of guys, and a lot of guys are banged up right now.
Well, Iowa has their best player out, too, the tight end, Lachey. That makes a huge difference. McNamara's out, too, and he was struggling.
You know what? I don't think that would have made a difference. I think the guy that came in played better than McNamara. He was able to throw the ball better than McNamara, at least.
He was, and he completed a couple passes on the counter boot, moving, which is something Iowa's been doing for 30 years. They haven't been doing it this year because McNamara's been hurt. He gets hurt. Deacon Hill comes in. They got the counter boot and a couple passes, on their one touchdown drive after Noah Kim threw the interception. They did a little sneak route, caught Michigan State man-to-man, little rub route, and guy got loose for 23 yards, roughing the passer on Tunmise Adeleye. Second time he's done that. That was the first play of the drive right after the interception, and then do a counter boot for about 13 or 14. It's not like they had a lot of go-to plays that were working. A couple of counter boots, a couple of now routes, now route, and then the little tight end in the slot breaks some tackles and they get points. In a game where no one's scoring many points, all it takes is one drive and a couple little spark plays like that. And that was enough. Now, you're right. If McNamara plays the whole game, as limited as he's been all season, maybe they don't win the game.
You saw in the second defensive possession for Michigan State, you saw him try to throw, like McNamara, try to throw some out passes, and he could not step into it. And they were badly missed to the point where the guy's injured. When a guy that's been around for as long as he has throws that poorly on those kind of basic routes, he's injured, and so. But it came down to, and I think Harlan Barnett said it best. It didn't come down to Iowa beating Michigan State. It came down to Michigan State beating Michigan State in a lot of ways.
Well,
Iowa made some plays, but if you directional punt the way you're supposed to,
yes.
If you take care of the ball like you're supposed to, you're not putting them in those kind of positions.
Yeah, the first turnover, Michigan State, I think it was 3-3, maybe 6-3 when Kim threw that interception. It's first down and 10 at the 20. Michigan State's driving, and driving against this defense, Iowa's defense was not at their best today. But driving against this defense is no small thing. You get a first and 10 to the 20-yard line. Theoretically, you're throwing it deep. Stutter and go. It should be safe. Give it to your guy or overthrow him and make it, and it's incomplete. DeJean, who's a great player, had the punt return for a touchdown. He's an off coverage. Stutter and go, doesn't bite at all on the stutter. Right. I'm thinking the quarterback should see that it's not open, and just throw it away. Come back on 2nd and 10. They throw away chance to get points there. Easy for me to say. Noah Kim, like Barnett says, he's a competitor. He thinks he can make a play. He wants to put it up there for him to make it. But he's a guy that's learning. That was a mistake. Later in the game, you saw that Noah Kim on 3rd down was thrown away and punting. But, he learned as this game progressed. That one was costly. The other one to the wide side of the field. That's a tough play call against these guys because Iowa was so good. They turn people over better than anyone in the country. As far as Michigan State's running the ball for 161 yards, 156 yards. I said in the pre-snap read, and we talked about it, Iowa got hammered by Penn State. Penn State ran 97 offensive plays. Some of these defensive linemen were on the field for 92 plays. And as tough as Iowa is, I wondered whether that was going to have an impact 7 days later, and I think it did, because Iowa, trust me, has a really good defense. Today, they were still feeling the body blows they took playing a game and a half 7 days ago at Penn State, a very physical game. And Michigan State, to their credit, Michigan State, it's not Michigan State's problem. They don't have to worry about. I mean, that's they came out and ran the ball against a good defense, better than they have all season, to outrush Iowa 156-61. You win that. I mean, that is a great job by these college football players doing a manly job of tackle football out here, establishing the run, and then the defense stopping the run. Against Iowa on the road with what Michigan State's been dealing with, outstanding. And then Deacon Hill comes in, 11 out of 27. 11 out of 27, 115 yards. You look at those stats and you're Iowa, it's like, how are we going to win this game? You can't win this game with those numbers.
There's still some plays that might have been interceptions on Michigan State's part that, or we talk about things that Michigan State's been dealing with. And Iowa dealt with stuff, but Michigan State had added stuff to deal with this week with the whole NIL mess.
Yes.
I just want to mention that in a second because that's really Bush League what happened to those guys, and that affects everybody on the team.
Yes.
And like you make a commitment, you say you're gonna pay kids, then you and I can disagree on how much kids should get paid or if they should get paid at all to play in college. But when you make that commitment, and someone pulls the rug out from underneath you, and in some instances, guys are depending on that to pay for their tuition and room and board because they've been promised that,
and probably some money to send back home too.
And that puts the entire your existence in flux. You can't focus on football. It's the night before a game. You can't focus on football. You're focusing on what am I going to do? Do I need to enter the portal? Do I need to do this or that? And it's absolutely Bush League that these guys had to deal with that. And so I give the Michigan State players a lot of credit. For handling it the way they did. I give the people that helped step up for some of these guys that get them money that they had promised to. I give those people credit. But this is something that these guys should have never had to deal with this weekend, and it's really unfortunate and disappointing that they were let down by adults. Yeah,
it was. And in the NIL world all across the country, you've got collectives that are operating outside of the athletic department, and things like this you hope don't happen anywhere, but I'm not really sure on what all the strategies were that were in place. We've heard a couple of things, but you're right, not a good look.
I don't care what was in place. If you're saying that you're the official collective of a university and you have money that's earmarked and promised to guys, and they're counting on that, and that's why they're at your university, and you don't provide that for them, I don't care what your reason is. You're a crappy person. That's bottom line. I mean, if you take money away from kids that's promised, I can't say it. I can, but I won't. You're not cool.
All right. Yeah. And the players had to deal with this. The night before the game, it comes out. The timing on that was really weird. And they came through it, and they hit hard, and they tackled hard against this Iowa team that prides themselves on playing that type of football. All right, Noah Kimmy throws those 2 interceptions, one late also, helped a little bit with some counter runs and so forth, managed the game late. When you look back at it, Michigan State had that lead, and it's a delicate situation for Michigan State. You've got the ball in your own territory. When they look back at it, could they have maybe gone to the run a little bit more wholeheartedly to try to pound that out? They kind of run on first down, then they throw in second down. They got a penalty situation, 3rd and long, then they got in a 3rd and 5, then a 3rd and 8. 3 straight times he didn't really want to throw into coverage and take risks, and opted to just check it down and throw it out and punt, which at the time I'm like, I said all week that's what they need to do. And obviously he was being coached to do that on the sidelines, and that's what they need to do. And they'll look back and wonder, if we would have, maybe run some crossing routes and some dig routes. You always wonder what you didn't do, which is undefeated. What could have been different? Because Kim did follow the coaching and manage the game late and stay safe, and really play for the punt and play to your defense, which was good all night until they return a punt for a touchdown, and then you fumble on your own side of the field for the final 10 points.
I think one of the things they got to do is, if Malik Carr's back, that's great, but you've got to figure out what you're doing at tight end. You got to figure out, some guys can't catch the ball.
Yeah, there was a third down, or a first down pass near the red zone. They did a little post to Jalen Franklin, who's a good blocker, but he just does not have good hands.
He had a catch in this game, but there's 2 or 3 times where he couldn't catch the ball, or at least.
What was the third down play when he's on the field and they threw it? And he doesn't have much of a catch radius anyway, so he didn't really get his hands on it. But you and I were talking, like, if it's third down, you're not going to run the ball, so they have to look at get him off the field and put. I'm not at practice, so I don't know, but whether it be Masunis or someone else, a tight end that's a better receiver. You're not. I understand why you have to throw it to him sometimes because you don't want to telegraph to the opponent that if he's on the field, we're only going to run the ball. But if it's 3rd and long and you're a 2x2 and you know you're going to throw it, they're a practice they know, but it seems to me they should be able to find a tight end.
Even if you
can catch that,
even if you have it,
or have a better chance to catch it.
Even if you have a guy that can do
I would hope. I don't know. I'm not in practice.
Even if you have a guy that does it in practice, that guy obviously can't do it in games, or he's not ready to do it in games, or for whatever reason.
You're right. Must be right.
So I mean, the other thing I would say is, we talk about Noah Kim, but the fourth down, going for it, that really hurt Michigan State. Even though it was 3 points, it's 3 points they didn't need to give up. Field position, that type of thing, and then.
And Iowa reduced in to take away the quarterback sneak.
Right.
Because it's on film, you know what they're going to do it, and they're going to push it. And Michigan State converted it easily when they've done it 3 times.
And it's different if you've got a 240-pound, quarterback,
yeah.
and you're doing it against someone else. If you're doing it against Maryland, maybe, we saw them do it successfully, and it's easy to. I can nitpick that one. If it was the 30-yard line, on Iowa's side, if it was on Iowa's 30-yard line, I wouldn't have a problem with something like that. But that was a problem. The other thing is, going back to the run game, I think, you look at the run game that was working, and pretty much everything was working. It was like, inside and outside. And I thought this is the first time that, you're talking about Iowa being tired. This is the first time that I can remember Michigan State in a long time being able to run outside on a team like Iowa. And, so it wasn't just like, hey, they can load up on the inside. The tight ends did a nice job blocking on the outside. Evan Morris had some nice blocks, and Franklin also had some nice blocks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, if the passing game doesn't work, everyone's like, well, maybe the run game. But in this instance, the run game was working, and against a team like Iowa, I don't see, if you can run on these guys, and the whole thing that they do on defense is live to pick the ball off, and you get a quarterback that has thrown interceptions, questionable interceptions, you run the ball until they prove that you can't.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
a few more run attempts. Nate Carter averages 5.4 per carry, 20 carries. Berger had 3 carries. Alante Brown had a couple of carries. If they did they have enough confidence to lean on that run a little bit more when they were trying to milk that lead? We can second guess all those things, and they'll second guess those things themselves. But it was there for them to. They had the horsepower to close this one out without asking Noah Kim to drop back and make reads against coverages, I would think, but didn't go in that direction, somewhat understandably, because they were moving the ball a little bit through the air, but you could tell on 3rd downs there was a lot of trepidation in terms of taking risks downfield. Now, as far as this team goes, usually when Michigan State is, around this record, we talk about, well, can they get to 6-6, get to bowl games, get to bowl practices, and all those things, get to 7-5. This season's already, it's a lame duck season in some ways. Harlan Barnett's coaching to keep his job. No one asks him about that anymore, and he's not thinking about that. He's just trying to win games, to his credit. But it's strange to cover this team in that regard because, how much is, usually when we're covering a team and a season starts to teeter, it's like, well, what can carry over to the following year? You've got a quarterback with 3 years of eligibility and another one with 4 years of eligibility. Watch to see what happens there. You got some young players, but in this age of transfer portal and an unknown coaching situation, we don't know how much of that's going to carry over. So there's that specter that's looming also.
I think we have to cover it as if these guys are going to, the younger guys are going to stay until they don't. And and I think this team is the same thing. People are like wondering what happens if guys leave. Well, guys have left, and this team is like, good riddance, as they should. And, like someone asked Harlan Barnett today in the post game about if guys are in the portal, if they're playing with the team, and he said said the right thing that resonated with me is like, if you're in the portal, you shouldn't be playing with the team
at this point in the year.
But even
because he said in the bowl game when they did it,
I get it. That was Mel Tucker's decision, but that's to me that's more of a mercenary decision. And if you're trying to keep these guys together and you're trying to promote team unity, you can say, hey, I understand why you made the decision you did, but we're going to roll with the guys. We're going to ride or die with the guys that we have, and and that brings a team together. Having guys that are in the portal or are going to be gone, that doesn't help you as a football team. It doesn't help you culture-wise.
Right. Barnett was asked about the quarterback situation, because he talks about the importance of playing with discipline, avoiding turnovers and penalties. Well, 3 turnovers from the quarterback, 2 actually. The one at the end I don't really count, but 2 costly. One was kind of regrettable. I don't know. But, he was asked, since turnovers is a big part of what you want to try to clean up, is changing quarterback part of the equation? He wasn't asking those many words, but that's what he was contemplating. And he says, yeah, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at the film, evaluate it with Jay Johnson and the coaches, and we're going to evaluate that position like we evaluate every position. I was down at the field for warm-up, and, warm-ups can be overrated sometimes, but a lot of times, Nick Saban used to say so-and-so had a good warm-up, so-and-so had a good warm-up. I got to tell you, Hauser had a good warm-up today. I think he looks pretty good. And he's got to wonder, as the season starts to teeter a little bit, that's something the head coach has to consider. Noah Kim, I thought, for the most part, played well enough to manage this game to win it. He didn't have that error on the directional punt, and he didn't fumble the ball there. And when Trey Mosley's a good player, good Spartan, and all those things. I mean, Noah Kim in the end didn't lose it at the end when it was on him to bring him back.
Could he have made better decisions to win the game? Yeah, absolutely. Could Caden Hauser have done the same thing against this Iowa team? I'm not so sure he could have, because the amount of short, accurate passes in tight windows that Noah Kim did today, that's something that I've never seen Caden Hauser do. So you could say, well, Noah Kim did this. Put in Caden Hauser. Against this Iowa team, Michigan State went with the right quarterback over here.
I think you're right. Today.
I am right. And, I'm sorry, I'm unmedicated right now, but I am effing right about that. And you want to do it against Rutgers, God bless you. They stopped the run, and they've got two good defensive backs. I don't have a problem with Michigan State if they, coming out of the bye week, if they want to, split playing time, or they want to give Caden Hauser a shot or that type of thing. But against this Iowa team, you can't put him in that situation, because while Noah Kim isn't accurate, like what you consider a really accurate quarterback, I don't think Caden Hauser is yet. And to have this kind of test and this kind of puzzle against this kind of defense, he wasn't ready for that. And maybe next week or 2 weeks from now, cut him loose against Rutgers and see how he does. But I will say this: whoever plays quarterback against Rutgers is going to have to deal with the possibility of not having a running game as good as this, because Rutgers does a nice job of stopping the run.
And I'll say Noah Kim made strides today in the pocket. He was more. I've talked about he's been a little bit uneasy in the pocket.
Pass protection was better too,
and he trusted it. I mean, pass protection was pretty good last weekend, and he didn't really trust it. He took a beating against Washington, understandably. Maryland, or a couple times when he got rid of it, when he didn't trust sometimes one time as max protection, third down, and he didn't wait long enough. He had Trey Mosley open, and we talked about that in the podcast and everything. Today, I felt like he was more comfortable in the pocket. That's progress. That's a young quarterback. He's still a young quarterback. I mean, he's not young, but he has 3 years of eligibility remaining. His college game experience is limited. Showing strides there. I thought his pocket presence was better against one of the toughest pass defenses in the country, and managed it well enough, except for the one interception there in the first half. Right. And if they'd went to the run game, maybe things would have been a little bit different. Yeah.
If they would have made the 50-yarder that bounced off the goalpost, things might have been different. So that's a bad luck type thing, because that was a good kick, 50 yards away. He made the 58-yarder pretty amazing. But I mean, this team had some bad luck tonight too. It's not, it's just one of those deals.
If you make that kick and you don't mess up the directional punt and you don't shank the one,
right.
Just three toe to football.
Don't shank the one, because I think if you shank the one, that's in your head when you do the directional. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, you go from really, really good to really, really bad, and then you're trying to do a directional punt, and you probably hit the wrong side of the football. So that's another shank in a way.
By the same token, he made the 58-yarder, like you said. So I'm taking that one for granted.
And other ones too.
Yeah. So I'm taking that one for granted, and then talking about the one he missed. Maybe not fair.
But I'm just saying, some of that's bad luck. The 58-yarder
it's great.
It's good luck too. It's a good kick and good luck. The 50-yarder he missed, that was a good kick. It went off the goalpost. So.
58-yarder, the longest since Ralph Melgienko hit a 59-yarder in 1983. Of course, Morton Anderson.
I'm not spelling that tonight.
Mojesie. Jenko. Jenko. Because I spelled it a couple times.
From Bridgman, Michigan.
That's the only reason I know that. That's right.
You lives in Bridgman,
You
Michigan.
interviewed him when that Hoy guy came around in the John L. Smith era, right?
I don't think it was. Yeah,
Hoy?
I guess so.
Matt Hoy. John L. Smith.
Chips Ahoy.
Chips Ahoy. Bridgman, Michigan. We passed
still
Bridgman,
lives there,
Michigan
man.
on the way down here. So shout out to
That burger
Mojenko.
place in Bridgman, I think that Redemarks, I think it's a little overrated.
Burger place?
Yeah.
They're a sponsor, Paul. You shouldn't say that. No, they're not. Anyone who wants a sponsor, go ahead and let us know. By the way, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com, become a subscriber.
That burger place actually is pretty good, except it's one of those deals where it's cash only. So you sit, you and I both like those kind of places.
I respect that.
They don't advertise. You sit down and you got to head out and get an ATM. Not great.
I respect that. One other thing, Alan Haller was here today. He's supporting the team, and he was just outside the locker room and so forth, and he feels for Barnett and these players and so forth. I can say that they're supporting Barnett and his quest to do what he can with this season and everything. In the meantime, the coaching watch has started in some ways because representatives of other coaches have reached out. And Alan did share that it's not like it used to be where you would wait and then you'd go after people. He says now they kind of come to you a little bit. He's not talking about that process at all. He just mentioned that part of it. So that part of it, is underway. They're gonna, unless they have a great turnaround here and have a great season, there's going to be a coaching change at the end of the year. I would imagine odds are, and we talked about it before. I think that it probably needs to happen. The Monday after Thanksgiving. That's when Wisconsin did it. You got to get something going before, signing day is like 3.5 weeks after that.
Right.
That's the way it is these days. So those things are going on, and we continue to watch that coaching watch at SpartanMag.com. We will be covering that and everything else as Michigan State tries to pick up the pieces and continue to play tough football like this. If they continue to play like this, they'll have a good chance to beat Rutgers and Indiana and Minnesota. And who else is out there? That would get them to 6 wins. So there's one other one I'm not thinking of. Maybe make a run at an upset. As far as Iowa goes, as bad as they are on offense, their defense is better than this. And if their defense comes back to life a little bit, they're going to win games. It's going to make people sick that Michigan State, whatever becomes of their season, this Iowa team's going to win 8 or 9 or more.
The sad fact of the matter the last 2 weeks, and I know why Barnett is like, it's not about him. It's not about the coach, like being the head coach here. He wants this team to win games that they can, and he felt like they should have won last weekend. And he feels like they should have won this weekend, and I know it's driving him crazy.
Yeah, stats are for losers, but they outgained another opponent, 349 to 222 against Iowa. Great football for a lot of snaps. But when the toe hit the ball a couple times, it went against them. Interception.
Defense played really good for 2 straight weeks.
They did. They have.
And without, with guys going down, Dylan Tatum was out for a bit tonight. I felt like Jordan Hall was limping a little bit at times. You've got some guys coming back. You still don't have a full complement of interior defensive linemen. I think Simeon Barrow is fighting through some things. This bye week should come at a good time, and it'd be nice to see guys like Bogle and Barrow. You get a little bit more horsepower in that bye week.
Do you think they're going to answer and keep playing hard like this?
Yeah, I do. At least if the guys that are out there, the guys that were out there tonight are the guys that were in the locker room afterwards, and those guys are playing for each other. They're not playing for someone else or worried about things outside the football field. I think the guys that are playing right now are guys that have shown that they can compartmentalize. And guys like Simeon Barrow, guys like Cal Halliday, guys like Aaron Brule, they're going to keep on playing hard.
Yeah, Barrow had a big hit today. Scoop and score touchdown for Cal Halliday. Good for him. Angelo Gross started at safety because Mangum wasn't out here. He stayed at home. He was injured. So Angelo Gross played safety, which has been a problem for him in past years. Today he was pretty solid against the pass offense that's not going to challenge safeties a whole lot, but he had a nice interception at one point. Any interception, any turnover in this game is a big game. We talk about turnovers. I mean, Iowa turned it over twice, and that was a big reason why Michigan State led for most of the second half. But Angelo Gross played pretty well. Amarion Smith out for the season.
Yeah,
and he was
injury.
And that was news today. That he was nickelback, first DB off the bench, first safety.
Good,
Yes, first safety off the bench, transfer from Cincinnati, and Mangum being out. So Gross had to move back there, and Chester Kimbrough had to come in and play some.
Kimbrough played
some
good.
Nickel, had a sack and a key play.
I felt good for him because he was thrown away last year in a lot of ways. I mean, he made mistakes, and I don't have a problem with him losing the starting job. But he went from first stringer. A guy that was like on the Mel Tucker show, tell us about all this. You've come so far, and then like 2 weeks later, bottom of the crap heap.
Siberia. Now he's back.
Yeah, so
good for him.
I felt good for him because I like that. that's emblematic of the guys that are still around, guys
Yeah.
that are still scrapping. If anyone could have walked away and said, screw it, I'm going to try to find a mid-major to play for and save my eligibility, could have been, Chester Kimbrough or whatever. But, kudos to you for working hard and grinding and, like, kind of buying in and not playing lip service to the things that you've been taught on the football field, but actually, getting better through adversity.
Yeah, and Michigan State, second week in a row that they've done some like exotic coverages and made it work without being too thin in the back. One time they blitzed a corner, and Malik Spencer goes over and rotates and plays corner, and cover 4 gets a pass breakup. It's a corner blitz, but only 4 are coming. So it can freak out a quarterback a little bit, but he's still thrown into a 7-man coverage. And then the one where Chester Kimbrough had the sack, he's in their press at the slot. And he blitzes off of that. And Michigan State played cover 2, the only time they played cover 2 all night. And they dropped a D lineman, so it's a zone blitz, a different look, sack. It's good football. Michigan State doing some exotics on defense without getting hung out to dry. Good for them. That's progress. But the bad thing about football is losses add up. That's one thing I love about covering college basketball. You can come out here like Michigan State did when they lost to Iowa, when Iowa scored 15 points in the last 2 minutes, hitting all those 3-pointers. And I looked at that game, I'm like, for 39 minutes, Michigan State played the type of basketball that shows me that they can go to the Sweet 16. Wins and losses basketball, sometimes that's overrated. You can still build towards something. In this sport, the losses add up, and they mean so much. That's one of the reasons it's so popular. There's a great atmosphere here today, but you feel bad for those players because 2 weeks in a row, they're right there.
Especially with the players, like what they're saying out there, like the losses feel worse than the wins feel good. And that's like when you think about that, and I know everybody's lived through disappointment and stuff like that, and I understand where they're coming from, but that just kind of, it makes you, I know they say that now, but I'm sure the next win that they get is gonna feel good, and hopefully for them, for their sakes, it's coming off the bye, because they need some good news.
They deserve something good to happen, and if they keep playing hard like this, something good will happen. And just observing them as young men, you hope that something good is coming around the corner for them, because they played their hearts out here today against a rugged Iowa team, and Michigan State was more rugged, but just those mistakes cost them. So we'll continue to cover the Spartans. Anything else, Paul?
No.
For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni from Konyndyk Stadium in Iowa City with the Spartans. You've been watching the VCast, SpartanMag.com.